Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to this week's recap video. We have so much going on right now. I kind of wake up every morning and think like, okay, now which one of the projects should I choose to do? Like the list is so long, and which is fun. I like it like that. Lots of exciting things going on, and we're gonna go do some planting right after we're done in here. And we're also still, like right now, I think, are we supposed to get into the 80s today, or maybe still the 70s?
Still 70s, and tomorrow's 70s too.
And then we have a couple days in the
90s.
80s, and then it just jumps right up into the mid-90s, which means that today I'm going to be topping some boxwoods. That's like my last chance to, I haven't really had a chance.
Yeah.
I guess. It's been
I mean, you probably could have done it over the last like week or two.
Maybe. But it got up into the 90s before, or close to 90s.
It's tough because, everything happens all at the same time
It
in
does.
terms of like you got to trim boxwoods.
You got to plant annuals.
Yeah, because you want to get stuff in the ground prior
Right.
to the 90s too. We'll still do it into the 90s, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Anyway, let's just jump into the videos from this past week, starting with planting spectacular rose trees. And they are spectacular, like the most spectacular rose trees that I've ever seen to buy. Like I usually see them, but they're usually kind of scrawny looking
What
and
color
little.
are they? Did
They're
you tell me
Julia
what color?
Child,
Yellow?
Floribunda, yeah, and one of them has a bloom right now.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, you'll have to go check it out. We also planted the rest of the fall gold raspberries and some perennial campanulas in the perennial section of our cut flower garden, which is filling up. Like filling up. It's crazy. First question. Thank you for showing the orchard in this video. It made me remember a question about the nectarine tree. Do you thin out the fruit when they start to form? I might have to this year. I haven't done it up to this point because, the trees are little. Last year we lost all of our peaches and apricots in a weird freeze. They were kind of like blooming at the same time, which is odd. Usually our apricots are way before our peaches, but they seem to be blooming at the same time. We lost all of those. I did get nectarines last year though, and they were all kind of though in the center of the tree, and I wonder if like those blooms were just protected enough.
Oh, sure.
But everything bloomed, and everything, like where there's blooms, there's gonna be fruit. The apricots are already loaded.
What do farmers do in this area when, we live near a town called Fruitland. So when they have fruit trees,
They have
and then
those
there's a
big
frost.
like windmill things. Doesn't that push air around?
Oh, maybe.
And like kind of keep it, or they can run sprinklers.
I don't know.
I don't really know. I mean,
Because
any
like
of
you lose your whole crop for the year,
Right.
Whatever in a frost, that'd be a bummer.
That would be a bummer. Maybe we should ask. We
Yeah.
should know that, living
Yeah.
where we do. Moving on in that same comment, I've heard we're supposed to just leave a few fruit on each branch so they can get to full size. Yeah, I mean, definitely take a look at how many fruit your tree is producing. Like our espaliered pear tree behind the greenhouse, which we never moved. It's so happy where it is. Like I want to be, when we're ready to move that tree, I kind of want to do it when it's dormant, but we just weren't ready this season. And I want to dig a big hole. Like I would rather
Can
not.
you move the whole thing? Get the tractor back there? Just
Yeah,
move.
we can pick up the whole box. And
Oh, but you're gonna have to put it in a hole.
but we're going to
You're not
have to
move
put
the
it in a
box
hole.
somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I mean, the whole goal is to get it lower so we can reach the top branch a little bit easier. But last year I did not thin the fruit, and I should have. I mean, they were awesome. They were beautiful fruit. They tasted really good, but they were all a little bit smaller. So had we thinned them, it does allow the plant to send more energy into fewer fruit. Thus they get bigger, and they have more space to get bigger as well. Brandon said, thank you for the great information on the different types of roses. Do you have any suggestions on shrub type roses or climbing roses that are good to grow in shade? Is there a good rose to grow in shade?
I don't know.
know. There might be some varieties that are a little bit more tolerant of it, but I think roses need a minimum of 6 to 8 hours of sunshine, preferably more than that, to perform really, really well. That's just in my experience now. Again, I mean, I don't grow all the roses in all the land. There's probably some that could handle a little bit more.
You can plant probably any rose as an annual rose in the shade.
It's an annual rose, but I
Yeah.
still don't think you're going to get much production.
Maybe the first year, right?
Great idea, Aaron. Great long-term
You
solution.
just gotta pull it out after the
Yeah.
year.
Heather said, I'm excited to see the brick patio coming together. Me too. The structured layout is very cohesive with the Hartley in the background. We do not see rose trees in northwestern Michigan. Is this something most garden centers typically carry? Are they better in certain zones? We usually see them around here. We are a zone 6. We used to be a zone 5 though, and still carried rose trees. They are more susceptible to, I mean, this is riskier because you're dealing with a grafted rose and the graft is way high up in the air rather than being close to the ground where you can mound leaves and mulch around it to kind of protect that graft union. So, I mean, it's one of those things that you kind of risk planting if you have a really weird winter or a cold snap that the plants are not acclimated or ready for, you could lose it easier than you could lose other ones. So I know that putting it in, I think I mentioned that in the video, that it is riskier. I'm hopeful that both of those, it would be a shame to lose just one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never probably find a rose tree that looks like that again.
Right.
Unless I went and dug one of my parents out of their garden. My mom planted one. She has 2 already, and then she planted one more that came from the same lot.
Oh.
I'm like,
I feel like that's what you need to do is if you've got
something
symmetry,
structural.
you almost need to plant,
spare.
a couple, maybe even 2 somewhere else.
So you can go dig them up and replace. We are starting our 1.5 acre homestead. I'm putting in an orchard with 14 trees within the next week. What did you use to seed your orchard floor? I'm struggling with what to use. We seeded with RTF Fescue, and I did a video. I did a video about it, didn't I? I explained what the RTF was. Maybe we can link that down below. It is beautiful. We have mowed it, which I'm glad we got after it. We were the window was closing a little bit because we just seeded the lawn mix in front of the orchard in our last area to put the grass pathway. And so the seed was down already, and it's actually up. It's the haze of green is up, but we knew that we'd either have to get in there right away and get the orchard mowed, even though there's still a few muscari that were blooming, or wait a month or 2. It's going to be at least 2 months before that grass, right?
Yeah.
Probably. And then the orchard would be a total mess.
Right.
It'd be a total mess if we
Well,
waited.
and you also, the way that those trees are being watered is those sprinklers. And if the grass grows up too tall, because we have those sprinklers set to where they shoot straight out. So they come up 12 inches and shoot directly out. And the grass was taller than 12 inches in many places. And it's not a big deal if you've got the 12-inch sprinklers and you've got a big open area where you can shoot the sprinklers shoot kind of up and fan around.
Right.
So I would worry that the trees might not get enough moisture with those sprinklers going off if we didn't mow it.
Yeah. There were several reasons. There's also some areas with some thick cheatgrass. That's the taller stuff that you were seeing. So we had immature cheatgrass heads out there, and I thought, I don't want those anywhere near our cats or anybody else that's walking through the orchard. So we want to get those mowed down. There's also some purple mustard. We have been hand pulling that out. I think we got a lot of it. Yeah. But still, there's some of it you just can't get 100%. And so we wanted to get that mowed off before it went to seed and all that business. But it actually looks nice. And I think the goal is to mow it a few times a season anyway, just to keep the growth in check and to keep it healthy. I think it's beautiful. In fact, my parents are seeding what used to be their orchard. They're going to use the same grass seed because they like how it looks as well. Maxine said, we have lots of berry-loving birds in our area. How do you keep the birds from enjoying all your berries? You have to net stuff. I'm going to have to net our blueberries this year. In fact, you guys, last night we had the kids out there, and it was a beautiful evening. I don't know what the degree temperature was. It was still, it was quiet, it was gorgeous. And I pulled all the strawberries from all of those bins. And they had settled so much. I mean, they settled we had to add 2.
I think that those still had the bark nuggets at
Did
the
they
bottom.
really? I thought we cleaned those out.
No, I think that they still had them in there.
I would not do that again. Putting stuff at the bottom of containers is a bad idea.
Well, it is going to settle big time. If you put big bark or whatever, think of all that space as it breaks down.
Yeah.
It's gonna come down.
And when you have perennial plants, I had to lift a bunch of the blueberries that were still good. I had to lift them out and replant them higher. Anyway, I wish we'd have never done that. We were just testing it out.
You said netting. Could we build could we put a couple posts on the corners and actually make a netted room?
Yeah.
In that space, so you could with a little door you walk in. Would that be weird?
No, might look kind of charming. But you want to make sure whatever size of net you have, it's big enough to let the bees still in. You just want to keep the birds out.
You'd almost want that chicken coop kind of...
like hardware cloth or chicken wire.
Chicken wire, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That would keep the birds out.
Yeah.
But let pollinators in and out.
Yeah, it'd certainly be easier than draping your plants. Well, I mean, not easier in the beginning. Building anything is not easier, but draping your plants with the bird cloth stuff, it kind of snags up the plants and,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a thought. I'd really like to eventually move those. We've got the galvanized tubs. I don't know how many gallons they are, but we've got 4 of them out there, and I'd like to kind of butt them up closer together, or maybe even build a more permanent raised bed that looks more like our berry beds right there, and have even more blueberry production. We have to do them in raised beds because we have to control the soil a little bit more, which I haven't been as, I was going to try to be diligent last year, and so we put 2 bags of land and sea in every single one of those tubs last night, and 2 bags of the potting mix, and just kind of mixed it all in. I lifted the blueberries, replanted them, cleaned out all the strawberries so they're not stealing nutrients and they're not fighting with each other. And the strawberries always did really well. It made me feel a little bit bad, but the strawberries I had in there they were inferior to the seascapes that we planted out in our cut flower garden. They're just bigger, better strawberries. But anyway, all that said, you can drape your trees or your berry plants with it's like bird X, I think. Aisha said, after the bulbs, tulips, and daffodils stop blooming, what happens? Do they get dug up? Nope. Or is there another plant that will grow there instead while the bulbs are dormant? That's pretty much what I'm hoping for. So what we do, like right now, we need to go through and deadhead all of our daffodils. They just stopped blooming middle of May, which is crazy. So they just stopped blooming. We need to deadhead those, so we just take the bloom stalk out, and then we leave the leaves, which can look a little bit messy, but we leave them until they yellow and die back. And then you can go through, if you wait long enough, you can go through and not have to cut them off. You can just gather them up. They just fall right off the bulb. The bulbs stay underneath the ground until next year. We just make sure when the bulbs are up, especially like newly planted stuff, the previous fall, we make sure to run drip in those areas so that, those plants, like when we plant them in the fall, there's plenty of moisture through the fall, winter, and spring to get them up and growing great, but it's through the summer months. We want to make sure that they then have drip. Joy said, can you please help me? I have a tree that was trimmed due to it being diseased last year. This year it has budded out with such beautiful green leaves, but recently I've noticed black spots on one side of the tree's leaves. I googled something saying I could use daconil fungicide. Do you have any idea what I could do? I appreciate any suggestions. Without seeing the leaf and seeing what it is, my best advice would be, and I know this is like not super helpful, but take some leaves in a Ziploc bag. Don't take them loose. Take them in a Ziploc bag to your local garden center to have somebody identify what's going on with your tree. The internet is great, but the internet is not always like in tune with what is going on in your exact area or what, usually people at your local garden center should know the kind of things that you're struggling with in your area and can recommend the right spray for you. I hate giving that answer, but it is like the best thing
if you have a good garden center.
Lorinda said, haven't been able to find berry tone locally yet. I can find holly tone or sulfur. Your thoughts on what I can use instead of berry tone? Use the holly tone. That'll work every bit as good. Jeannie V said, what happened to the big galvanized trough planters? 3 of them. I think they had blueberries or strawberries in them. So we just got them all revamped last night. I actually picked up some legacy blueberries, not last year, but the year before, and they were still in containers behind our greenhouse. So last night I had to take the pruners to them and kind of prune them all up, but there were blooms on some of them. And when we revamped the pots and pulled out all the strawberries, we then had a bunch of room left for new blueberries, and we put a bunch in there. So hopefully we have Jersey, Legacy, Blue. Not all the blue crops looked horrible. I pulled them all. Blue Ray or Blue Jay? Blue Jay, maybe. Those looked good. Spartan and Patriots are my absolute favorite blueberries. I cannot find them to save my life this year, but they've always performed so well for us. So I'm hoping that the Jerseys, they're loaded with blooms. I'm hoping the Jerseys and Legacies are good. I have done a video about blueberries discussing the different types, and depending on where you live, there are types that are better depending on where you live. Maybe we can link that video down below as well. Next one was May Garden Tour. And you guys, I almost considered not posting this one because, and you will have hopefully seen the next garden tour. We did another garden tour 2 days later because so much changed in 2 days. But
Maybe in 3 days.
We filmed that on a Monday, and then I think we filmed, maybe Thursday morning, we filmed a new garden tour. It was so different. Yeah. You'll see.
It's different again.
Yeah. Like everything is full and like
we need
booming.
to do a post-mulch garden tour.
You guys, Paul and Bethany have been mulching, and it's so good. It's so much better than when you can see like the crummy looking soil, and part of it was still wood chips, where we had all the plants in the South Garden last year, like the potted plants that we were holding over. We couldn't mulch in that area because, it wasn't worth it, and they were in the way. So yeah, it's just looking so much better. Anyway, so I almost thought, like, let's pitch this tour because 2 days later it looked, or 3 days later, it looked wildly different. But sometimes it's nice to see how things progress. So we decided to throw it up anyway. That was an extra video on Saturday.
That sounds like a line that I would say.
Is it?
Nice to see how things progress.
Tink Pick said, those black outdoor chairs with the white cushions are gorgeous. Where did you get them from? They are from Front Gate. Carlisle is the variety, the line. Style. And I do the cushions.
You gotta wait for a sale.
Yeah, I waited
sale.
for a sale. I waited a long time for a sale. And we ordered the bistro set that goes along with that same kind of style. So we got the round table with the 4 chairs, the same color of cushions, which is a rumor vanilla is the color. I wanted lighter colored cushions, not tan. I want to do something patterned, but I can never find patterned cushions that I like. I think we need to do them custom. But we have to consider our dang orange cats.
Yeah.
I mean, the cats are great, but they do leave orange hair everywhere. So you have to consider that. I would love to do something black or navy or something, but then we have orange matted hair everywhere. Anyway, I think that bistro set has shipped. I think what we're going to do is move the seating arrangement we have by the kitchen to the new brick patio, and then have the bistro set right there by the kitchen, because we actually found ourselves using the concrete table that was there is gorgeous, but we will use that somewhere else. But we used it a lot for filming. We used it for photography. And if it's right near the kitchen and the grill, we'll actually use it to eat on. And it's in the shade. We won't have to pack our food anywhere. I think it'll make it a lot more convenient. So that is the plan. Kim said, how do you keep your gravel looking so beautiful and weed-free? Is there something under it when you spread it? There's nothing under it anywhere except for in our raised bed vegetable garden. We did put weed fabric down right there because there was a horrible bindweed problem over there. I'm so glad we did that. Mm-hmm. Oh, we haven't had bindweed in that area since. That was the cure for that spot. So what we did in that area is we laid the whole thing down with landscape fabric, put our raised beds down on the landscape fabric, cut out the fabric from inside the beds so that roots couldn't reach down to native soil. And I don't know that they ever do, but they could if they wanted to. And I think that it's probably helpful for drainage and such. But then we went in with gravel on top of that around the beds. In our driveway areas, we do spray. We use a lot of the dead weed brew at the highest mix ratio. So we get not the ready to use bottles, we get the concentrate, and we do it at a 12%, I think is the high rate. Mm-hmm. And we add a spreader sticker in there, which helps it adhere to the leaves, and it works really well for us. We have done a video about that as well. I showed all the products. There's the dead weed brew that we use for gravel areas. We hand weed in flower beds. And then there is a lawn weed brew that targets broadleaves in grass, and it's like an iron active ingredient in there. So they're all for organic gardening, that sort of thing. But
also the land plane to keep the gravel looking nice.
Oh yeah.
You can get a land plane in any size. You have to pull it with something. You could pull it with your truck if you had to, but you can pull one. You can get a small one for a lawnmower. You can get a big one for a subcompact tractor. Mm-hmm. But man, land planes keep gravel looking nice. So a lot of people, when they first buy a tractor of any size, they'll get a box blade, which is good for moving dirt, moving quite a bit of gravel or dirt. And that's great. But if you're just wanting to maintain, land plane is the way to go.
It makes your gravel look brand new.
Yeah, right. It
does.
I
mean, it just fluffs it up, and I don't know, sometimes dirt surfaces, or we'll clean our dahlias in a spot that need, there's a little patch of mud. Yeah. You take the land plane over and it just shakes all that stuff down and brings the rocks up.
Right.
I think it's probably helpful for weeds too.
Well, it's like those little games, how they've got different types of sand, different sizes of sand, and you keep shaking it, and the small stuff ends up at the bottom and the big stuff ends up at the top. It's the same idea with a land plane. It kind of fluffs it up to where all the little dirt ends up at the bottom.
Yeah. Datsela said, what did you fill your raised bed gardens for vegetables with? The soil's always so soft and fluffy. Okay, so a couple things. If you are using bagged mix, which is very convenient in a lot of ways, we use the Espoma raised bed mix. Have had phenomenal luck with that. That's what we filled our Hartley cold frames with, our raspberry and blackberry beds with, and also the raised beds at my sister-in-law's house. We filled all of those 100% with raised bed mix, and it grows things beautifully. We also add in Lanancy. Every time we do a crop shift, we add Lanancy, and that just helps bulk it up. Lanancy compost. And that adds nutrients back in and helps, because, things settle too. Raised beds always settle. So we do add that. When we filled up our raised beds initially here, we did buy bulk from a nursery in Boise, Idaho, called Cloverdale Nursery, and I think it's the premium raised bed mix or something, but it is, I've got it written here, it's 56% premium topsoil, which means it's been like screened and there's no rocks or anything in it. 34% Cascade compost and 10% composted manure. That was the best base in terms of bulk stuff. I've used other bulk stuff and had horrible luck. Like with it getting heavy, and it was white, like super high pH. Like there was no goodies in it. But that mix from Cloverdale just was great. And I think my parents are going to go get that to fill their raised beds in their new...
I'm surprised they wouldn't use the raised bed mix. They have a bunch of it at Andrews.
Oh, they might end up doing that too. It might end up being a little bit easier, but...
I saw they ran out of land and sea, though, and couldn't get more.
Yeah, they were asking to get some of ours.
I wonder if it was like a sold-out situation, or...
I don't know. He said no person that they get stuff from, that they order stuff from, even in the whole country. Because there's other places they could get it, not just in the West, but
I'll
in
have
the
to
East.
ask Espoma if it, like, just... If
they
they had
had
an
a run on
issue,
it?
or if it was just selling really well.
Tony Girl said, "Oh my goodness, thank you for always making our day. I have a quick question about your fencing. Did you use a vinyl fence or is it wood? And are you happy with it?" It is vinyl. I'm happy with it in terms of maintenance. I'm happy that it matches what we currently had. That's what was here when we moved in. We priced out a wood fence. I really wanted the black. I wanted black wood that was stained black, that looks like our raised bed vegetable garden. It was so expensive, even just for our new property. That's when we started to the South Garden. When we bought that pasture initially, that's when we priced out putting in a fence. And then we thought, well, it needs to match, so we're going to have to do the whole thing. We ended up going with vinyl and just matching what was there. And
What was it? If we were going to end up, in the end, doing everything, wasn't it like this one bid that we got was going to be like $100,000 for the whole thing? No thanks.
Yeah, I can't, like... Yeah.
We could have done it ourselves and just like, well, we're doing another patch of fence this week.
Yeah. Hopefully we make it 20 feet today. And
all of our videos are just all fence related.
Fighting it up every day.
The hole needs to go here.
Yeah.
I measured it twice.
I have no business building anything like that. Nope. Charles said, on the tulips around the Hartley, you will be planting them up with new tulips again. Where are these going? Usually when I have tulips like that, we were just kind of discussing it because like they're gorgeous and I would love to like be able to rely on those tulips to come back every year as thickly. But you know, we're going to be planting, I've got 4 trees we're going to be putting in those quadrants behind the Hartley as soon as the tulips are done, which they're starting to drop petals right now. And then we'll be planting annuals around the trees. So who knows how many of the tulips will be left after all of that. And then tulips, depending on the variety, some are really good about coming back consistently and some are not. So in a high impact area like that, oftentimes people treat them as annuals, and I'm kind of considering just popping them out, starting fresh, and then doing something different next year. Just having a few areas that we do something different every year, because I don't really want it to look the same every year either.
Yeah.
It was just happened to be glorious. I mean, wait till you see the second tour. I mean, the second tour, they look wildly different. Anyway, yeah, so I'm not really sure everything that's going to go on there, but the alliums are just starting to open on the ends of the Hartley right now. Lady Daisy said, your property seems very flat. You are correct. Do you ever get tempted to add some hills or sunken areas? Not really. I don't really love to force something that's not natural to the landscape. You know, a little berm here or there is fine, but we talked about doing that in the beginning, but I don't know. I kind of like to work with what you have. And it was hard for me in the beginning, especially you probably have seen, or hopefully you've seen tours we've done in my parents' garden, but the garden I grew up in is on a hill. And it was terraced when we moved in. So all the terracing was already there. The garden rooms were set and prime. I mean, they didn't look anything like they do now. They were pretty much just full of weeds, but the rock walls were there, and it was like a gorgeous bone structure to get started. And so when you're used to living that, I lived in that garden my whole life that I can remember anyway. We moved in that house when I was 6. And then you come to this big flat field. You're like, well, how do I get that really cozy? I don't know, but I find myself liking bigger open areas now, like, you know, being able to see a big vista. I like them both for different reasons. And I think like finding contentment in whatever kind of topography you have is a good thing. I don't know. It's kind of fun though what we're trying to attain out there as well, and we're going to be trying to room it up with evergreens and some hardscape elements and things like that. So we'll see what we end up creating in the end.
We're on
Who knows?
like the 30-year plan.
We are on the 30-year plan. Yes.
It's going to look great by retirement.
It will. We can sit out there and enjoy. Not have to work. Michelle said, well, if we have this yard at retirement, we'll be working every day of our life.
Yeah.
Something to think about. Michelle said, how do you get your lawn to look so beautiful? Is it sod, and do you use chemicals or something kid and pet friendly? Aaron, what's your secrets?
Kid and pet friendly. Says it on the bag, actually.
Yeah.
I use the Espoma. I've been doing, they have for like the spring, spring. Then there's like a green bag, which is just like a regular thing.
Organic lawn food.
Yeah, organic lawn food. Mm-hmm. And then they have a summer revitalizer and a fall winterizer. And I've been using all 4 of those. And for the most part, it works. I mean, I've got like issues every once in a while where like the thatch, you know, and the thing is I bag the grass. So it doesn't make sense that there would be a lot of, and it's not a lot of thatch buildup. And you can't, like I said, you can't see it unless you're right on top of it. But I think the most important thing is, you know, spraying weeds out, using like the lawn weed brew. That helps. And just keeping it watered and mowed and fertilized.
Christine said, have you ever considered a classic English rill running through any parts of your garden? What is that?
A rill?
A rill.
How do you spell that?
R-I-L-L. Let me look that up. A stream, brook or stream. I haven't really thought about a brook or a stream. We've been talking about a pond.
Yeah, it would be really cool to have something like that, but you'd have to line it.
It would need to be lined. Our ground would be like...
It would just suck it up.
Yeah.
So you'd have to line it, and you'd have to have like a rock, you know, bed. It'd be cool. But also things like that, they make it difficult to get around because wherever you've got that, you can't traverse it with a tractor
build yourself. That's how it came out. Build yourself a bridge.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But it's got to be a big enough bridge to handle like the tractor or... gators.
The initial pond that I sketched out, was that like over half acre, right?
Yeah.
Pond. And then it would go like on either side of our driveway, and we'd have it like a bridge over the pond.
We have big trucks. Well, like in the video where the annuals got unloaded, we have trucks come all the time and deliver like soils or
we could build
plants.
the bridge so that the trucks can go over it.
Yeah, that'd have to be like an engineered bridge to support that kind of weight. It'd be like, I'll bet you couldn't accomplish that for less than $250,000.
And thus, we don't have a pond out there.
I'll bet you the pond would cost over $200,000 to do a pond that size, and then the bridge would cost another $250K minimum.
Dream big.
Well, okay, yeah. Well, start buying your lottery tickets, I guess.
Pat said, your property's just beautiful. Thank you. What were those pink colored tulips with the pointy tips called? Sanne. S-A-N-N-E. They are amazing, and I want some. Also, have never heard who the winner of the $500 gift card was and can't find it anywhere in the comments. It'll be in the description of the video. Anywhere where we've announced a giveaway with one of our partners. We usually pick a winner in about a week's time for whichever. We've run so many giveaways in the last little bit. You just need to go back to that original video and look in the description. It won't be in the comment section. It'll be in the description of the video. Next video is planting hollyhocks and foxglove in our garden and in my parents' garden. And this was like the project that would never end. I mean, I just had a few flats of flowers, which usually doesn't take that long. I had the auger out, but I felt like it was one of those days where I would forget this, I'd forget that, I'd have to go back and get this, and I need a hose, and you know, those kinds of projects. I feel like I'm never going to get this done ever in my whole life. I'm going to still be planting hollyhocks at the end of summer. But we did get it done by the end of the day, and I ended up being able to plant, it was 84 foxglove and like 24 hollyhocks out in my parents' garden. So we went over there that evening and did that, and it was really fun. Catherine said, where do you find the seeds for all those beautiful varieties of flowers? All I keep finding are mixes of colors. Would love to have other options. I got the hollyhock seeds from Swallowtail Garden. Swallowtail something. You could Google Swallowtail seeds probably, or Swallowtail Garden seeds. I also got a lot of my geranium seeds from them as well. And then I get a tremendous amount of my seeds from Johnny's. The foxglove came from them. I feel like their prices are the best. You get a ton of seeds, and they've got a lot of variety, a lot of the specialty varieties you see out there. And we've never worked with Johnny's before. It's just...
I emailed them one time. nothing
They are so
back.
big. Like, I don't know. They're great. And the information they put on the seed packets is invaluable. I've learned so much just from those seed packets. Tracy said, will these foxgloves seed themselves in your mom's garden and cover this space? We hope so. That would just be amazing. That's kind of the goal with the foxgloves around here. And I don't know if there's any question about it, but yes, they are toxic. And no, I'm not stressed out about that at all. Michelle said, why did your parents get rid of their orchard? Were the trees dead or did they move them to a different location? Most of those trees were super old, and every plant has a life cycle. And it got to a point where they were like, why are we maintaining this thing? Like, we're barely getting any fruit anymore. I don't want to spray anymore. We don't
Did they
want to
plant
have
the
to
trees?
prune them. What's that?
Did they plant the trees?
Yeah, initially. Well, I think there might have been like 1 or 2 down there initially that were originals. Maybe.
Well, your parents have been there over 30 years.
Yeah, but they did plant them when I was like, it was one of the first years we were
Sure.
there. So there were some old ones. Yeah. And a couple of them had split, like in windstorms and that sort of thing. So it felt like time, and they just didn't want the maintenance of it anymore. So they had them removed, and they weren't worth saving. And I think what's going to go on down there will be much better. Like, we've already spent way more time down there than we ever did. Now that there's that little seating area, the kids love to go down there. They climb up the rock wall and
I'll tell
have
you
a
what,
big
seating
time.
areas make people stick around.
They do. Yep. Housewarming said, when someone asks what your job is, what do you say? YouTuber, gardeners? Some people find it confusing what you do. I usually say eat both. I'll say gardener, or I make videos, gardening videos.
Usually, yeah. I always tell people we make
YouTube videos?
make videos online.
Uh-huh.
That's more like an acceptable thing now.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been doing it like close to 10 years. And in the beginning, it wasn't as a known thing, but I think people get it that, people make a living doing online stuff now.
Yeah. Allison said, will the hollyhocks need staking with your high winds? Ours haven't. They're such tough plants. And we have hollyhocks that were here originally when we moved in that are still here and still seeding themselves around. And they're just big, stocky, thick, dense plants. And I've never had any of them fall over in the wind. Not to say that couldn't happen, because the ones we just planted are a little bit more exposed than the other ones that we have, which are like kind of tucked up by our front entryway. So we'll see. Judy said, do you have problems with slugs in Ontario? Just wondering what you recommend using to get rid of them in wetter Pacific Northwest and other areas that is pet safe. The what is it? The slug and bug bait?
Bug and slug killer.
Bug and slug killer. I can't remember what the active is in that, but we don't deal with them very often. That's why I can't remember. Usually when I see a slug, it's at the bottom of one of our nursery containers that's shipped in from somewhere else. Occasionally I'll find a slug in the garden. Little ones. We don't get the great big ones. Patricia said, did your mom get her room done yet? We hope you can do a video. Her room. No, they haven't even started. The construction.
Yeah, they were going to do that in April.
Yeah.
Like mid-April.
And then they said mid-May. So
Classic.
Here we are. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. Misha said, loved seeing your mom's garden. Where did she find the playing card suits? Stepping stones. We made those when I was little. So my mom found some molds, and we mixed up some concrete, and they poured a bunch of them, and we did like hand prints and like.
Hopefully you were using a mask and wearing goggles and gloves.
That's the only reason why I'm standing here today, because I was wearing the proper PPE. Deborah said, in your spare time, would you consider making another channel on flower arranging with the cut flowers from your garden? Oh boy. Maybe I just need to do that a little bit more often, like tack it on to the end of a project video.
Yeah.
Like, let's go gather some flowers and put something together.
There's only so much Laura to go around, and I feel like you're, for the most part, doing what you love to do.
Yeah.
I mean, you're doing all the projects that you want to be doing.
Yeah. I don't like to arrange flowers all the time. I have to be in the mood to do it. So,
And sometimes you like to do it not filming it.
yeah. I do it
It's
quite
like
a bit, not
You
filming
do it, I would say
Most of the time I do it. not
80%
filming
of the time you do it and don't film it. Or
Yeah.
like you'll take photos of them.
Sometimes. Yeah.
But you don't like to film the process necessarily.
No, because it's a peaceful, like, alone time sort of thing
Yeah.
for me. Anyway, but we should probably add them in here and there.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have more too to work with. We currently do at the moment, so we could probably start that a little bit more. The next video was planting at my sister's house plus the stone wall update. It was just so fun to be there. You know, Pedro and his crew will be there tomorrow finishing up their part of the project, which means we'll be able to kind of cruise with the rest of ours. We planted a bunch of stuff. As soon as Pedro and his crew are done, then we will be able to run our drip, and we'll bring you along for that. I'm going to help her run drip in all the flower beds. We are going to build the raised beds, kind of a custom version of the copper capped ones from Gardeners, because I'd love to just get the ones from Gardeners because they're so handy and they're beautiful, but they're like, we want them to be a little bit differently shaped.
You could probably get more from Gardeners. Do you want to just go that route? Would
Well,
that be easier?
no, because we want to do L shapes back there.
They don't sell L's?
No, they just have the 3x6 and 3x3s, which in most cases works really nicely. But this yard is little, like what we're trying to fit in there. It's not a little yard, but it is like a little space to fit a lot of things in, if that makes sense. But I think it's coming along beautifully, and I know Monica and Nick are just over the moon with all of it. So it's been really fun. We are going to change. I actually drove away that night thinking, nope, got to change the arbors in the back. I can't do the non-balance thing. So we already figured out how we're going to change it and make it more balanced, because
I heard you in the video when I was watching it later, before it went up, and I was watching you explain why you did it and why it was fine. And I was like, I just know that inside you've got the little like Laura voice screaming,
it's not okay.
It's not okay.
Yeah.
But I'm saying it's okay.
Yeah. I was fighting it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're going to fix that, because I can't live with myself if we don't. I think in the end, it will be better being fixed the way we're going to do it. Anyway, we'll show you that later too. Lisa said, I love this. I love seeing you take a basic yard and transform it to an oasis. Question, is it standard practice that homes in your area all have sprinkler systems? Yes. If you don't have one, you don't have grass. I live in Delaware and no one has a sprinkler system, not even large community areas or business parks. We just don't get enough rainfall during the hot part of the summer to keep them alive. Right now, we've been receiving enough rain to keep everything pretty happy. We haven't had to run our water all that much. And then usually in the fall, we're okay. It's just like the half of June, July, August, first part of September. Super tough to not have a sprinkler system. You just don't garden if you don't have one. Mandamoo Douglas said, what arbor is that? I'm sure you've told us in another video, but I love the lines of it. So that one came from our garden. It was the one that was underneath our maple tree by the back shade porch. And we took it down, last year because we had the stone wall and brick work done right in that area. And it was sitting behind our barn. And I had a brand new one sitting in the barn that I thought would work great for this space. And so I was showing Monica, like, here's what I have. Like, do you want to use this one? Or do you like the look of this one? And she liked the look of that one the best. So that's the one we brought over. And it was from Gardener's Supply originally. I don't know if they still have the same one, but they should, because it really is a gorgeous one. Ginger said, wait, what? I'm quite surprised not to see any Land and Sea compost or Biotone starter going into these holes. Did the Biotone not show in any of the video?
I wonder if it got
Biotone
cut
went
out.
into every single one of the holes. That soil looks so dry and dead. It's actually not. It's kind of hard pan, but our soil grows stuff. Most stuff, pretty well. And I'm wondering why those two crucial ingredients were omitted. They weren't omitted. Biotone was used in every single one of those holes. We will be top dressing with compost. So that will be the addition there. I don't want to add a bunch of compost. In fact, they don't recommend, Color Choice Shrubs doesn't recommend that you put in any soil additive. They just say plant native soil. So we didn't do that in the holes, but we will be top dressing with compost, kind of like we do in our own garden. It'll work its way down. Cassandra said, you mentioned you wish you would have spaced the arbs at your house closer together. I believe you originally did 4 foot on center. Looking back, what spacing would you now recommend? 3. We would have done 3 feet. At the time, it just seemed like an enormous amount of plants. And we were trying to be conservative because it is an enormous amount of plants that we put there. But when you're dealing with a plant that gets 3 to 5 feet, if you want a hedge, you need to plan that tree is going to stay at the 3 foot, just in case. Because if you space them 5 feet thinking, oh, well, they'll get to the bigger size of things, but they only stay at 3, well, then you're going to have a gap. And these trees, they're not like 3 foot or 5 foot all the way from top to bottom. They do this. So if you have them spaced apart further up at the top, you're going to have a bunch of points instead of having more of a green wall. So anyway, if we could go back and do it again, we probably would put them a little bit closer together.
Yeah.
They are looking good, though.
Yeah.
Pauline said, what are the dimensions of the yard, please? Well, I know it's 60 feet long, and the width, I think they measured it at 40, but I don't think it's quite 40. I think it's about, 19, I think it's it might be 30 at the most. I'll remeasure it when we're down
deep,
there.
You mean?
Yeah, deep.
From the house to
the fence. Yeah, because I originally did all my sketches off a 40-foot measurement. That's the measurement that I was given, and it's not 40 because we did a 6-foot flower bed, and then the stones take up about 1.5 feet at 7.5 feet, and then it was like 17.5 feet to the fence from the bottom of the rocks. So what is that? Like,
did you
25
plan
feet.
maybe on the width of the stones?
I wasn't.
It was just the flower bed all the way to the end of the stone.
The flower bed's 6 feet, and then the stones, that has nothing to do with it. But when you have a 40-foot measurement and then you only have 25 feet, 15 feet missing is quite a big amount. But it's all working out great. Loretta said, will she put in any water feature / statuary? I don't know about statuary, but water features is in the plan at some point. I'm not sure she and Nick have decided what water feature they exactly want. Jojo said, can we get some of Aaron's drone shots on this project once it's finished?
Sure.
You'll have to come with me one of the days.
Yeah.
I've been doing this all by myself, well, Monica and I. But I've been filming those. Training Olive said, everything is turning out beautifully. Will there be houses behind her eventually, or will she get to keep the view past the fence? There's no plans in the works for the property behind her to be a subdivision. It could be at some point, but a farmer, they're still farming that land. And I think you can see the farmhouse from hers. So
it'll probably most definitely get developed at some point.
At some point, hopefully a long time from now.
Yeah.
So she keeps her view. They actually have that beautiful field, and then there's like a little bank of trees, and they've got some big birds that live in those trees. I don't know what kind of birds they are, but they come and hunt in the fields, and it's kind of fun to watch them. Brian and Tammy Olson said, love it, great layout, and both of you combined are adding special signature touches to the yard. Can I ask what will be on the ground around the raised beds? I don't want to assume gravel, so I thought I would ask. You have taken a small boring space and created an inviting space that sucks you into every nook. Wonderful teamwork. We are putting landscape fabric down around the raised beds, just like we did in our garden. And I haven't really asked her what exactly she wants we might do mulch down there around the raised beds. I don't imagine we'll do gravel, but I don't know. We talked about the landscape fabric portion, but not what we're going to put down over it. Last video from this week was setting up the high tunnel and a huge new annual load tour. So in that video, we showed you Paul and Bethany constructing the high tunnel, which went up super fast. So happy to have that. Mm-hmm. Oh, it is so nice. Usually we have annual plants just scattered on the ground everywhere out here in front of the barn, in front of the greenhouse, and it looks like a total wreck, and it's hard to take care of them when they're down on the ground, and they're subjected to all the wind and all of that. It's harder to keep them happy. So to have them all up on mostly all up on tables, protected. Oh, it's so nice and all kind of organized in there-ish. And next week, though, when we go to the college, like tons of those plants will be gone. Yeah. So we'll be able to spread everything out. Everything will have, actually every flat that I've emptied out, I take it back in there and I separate flats. Because those Super Venus and Super Tunias, if you keep them all clustered in flats together, they start to get a little spindly and sick. So I like to do every other hole so they have room to breathe. Kind of makes me happy to go in there and do that. But anyway, we got that huge annual load. We do like one big annual load every year, and that's from Moss Greenhouses out of Jerome, Idaho. They grow them on for us, and we use those. We use off of those for weeks. We'll do our big community college project. We'll do planting projects around here, planting projects at the church. We usually plan for extras so that we have extras for projects that crop up.
We're going to need a bunch for that. The
hayrack project, yeah. That'll just be like probably our wild menagerie of a color.
Which I think will be kind of fun.
Yeah. And M said, how fun to see the truck roll in, knowing what beautiful flowers are arriving. Question, do you or the nursery still plant up the garden pots in town? The garden center does. So there was a time, because I started and managed that project for like 7 years. And when I stopped working at the garden center and I knew I had to start eliminating some things in order to do what we're doing now, that was one of the things I just told my mom, like, I can't manage that anymore because you have to be kind of hands-on with it. So there was a short time where we considered just pulling the pots, but then the city ended up deciding to provide labor to keep them watered, and they were helping along the way, but just in small ways, but now they take a lot more ownership. But the garden center does plant them up. In fact, we coordinated colors so that the community college and the downtown pots will match. Anyway, they were cleaning them out a couple days ago, and I think getting ready to plant them up. Crochet Garden Repeat said, does the college have a game plan each year for what plants they want, or do they let you have free range? I have 100% free range on whatever we want to do down there. So
they didn't even ask.
No, they don't. They're just like, just fill it up, just whatever. Yeah. So it's really
But they're
nice.
always like over the moon with how it looks.
Yeah.
They've never once.
Oh no, they've never
I mean, they're always so complimentary about how
the only
everything
thing they've
looks.
ever said was cannas. We love those. Can you do more of those next
yeah.
time? So I did a lot more cannas next time. It was all like such a positive experience, and they take such wonderful care. Rosa, who's like the main watering gal down there and takes care of them, fertilizes them, and just does a phenomenal job. I mean, it takes a lot down in our area to keep things like that looking nice when they're not on an irrigation system, and most of their containers in particular are not. So she's doing all that. Does really well. Ashley said, man, this review gets me so excited and inspired. So the light rose double begonia, I have to have that in my life. You should. They're amazing plants. I planted them in our window boxes the last 2 years. So happy with them. In fact, I think those might be going into window boxes again this year. It's hard once you find something that works well, that pops, that just really, that you really like. It's hard to veer from that sometimes. Question, would it be possible to bring that plant in and overwinter it so you could keep it long term? I would be so sad if I found one that only had for the season, was not able to keep it. Has anyone ever tried overwintering? You can definitely, there's some begonias that overwinter better than others. It might go dormant, but it may come back for you. I mean, it's worth a shot, worth trying. Mary said, how heavy is the hose link to pick up, move, carry if you choose to move it to a different location? Do you know how much they weigh?
I don't know. I mean, it's like a sack of potatoes or something.
Well, a sack of potatoes can be 56 pounds.
I
That's
would
what ours
guess.
are, I think.
I would guess maybe like 30 pounds.
Can I look it up?
Yeah,
well,
probably
of course,
would say.
Yeah, I could look it up. 30 pounds. What?
Boom.
Good guess. Yeah, you know, if you have them high, there's only one on our property that's hard for me to move, and it's because it's mounted over my head, and it's the one right on the corner of the barn. And we had to put it high because we needed to be able to swivel the hose and use it either in front of the barn to the chicken coop or into the greenhouse and behind the greenhouse area. But we've got the big boxwood spiral, so we had to have it high enough to where it didn't drag on that a bunch. And that one is a little bit hard. Like, I make audible noises when I get that one out of the little pipe that it's sitting in. But all the other ones are really easy to move around. Last question. Judy said, so exciting to see all this progress. Can't wait to see everything planted. How do you attach a hose link when a water line is far away? Well, we had to run another hose to the faucet in this case, because the faucet is actually in a box, like a landscape box. We had a few faucets put in like that have been so handy.
They're actually blowout valves.
Are they?
So yeah, they're what you do. I mean, it's just a regular faucet in the ground, but they use those to
so
blow
they open
out.
them up and let the water blow out
Yeah.
those. Oh, interesting. They are so nice. They're like on a swivel pipe.
No, it's the opposite. So you actually attach your air hose
To the pipe?
To that, you open it up, and then the air goes in that faucet
And blows out the sprinklers. Gotcha.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, they've been really nice, but we did have to attach a hose to that and then run it to the hose link in this case. And that's it, you guys. That's it for today's recap video. Hope you are all having a great week. Thank you for all the questions and comments, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.